Okay, now that we have built up the triangular ridges, we're going to start building the secondary ridges. We'll use the blue wax for this. If we end up flowing them together, we'll just separate them after they're solidified a little bit, like the buccal developmental groove here. You can separate it a little bit, and we can refine the secondary groove. We just have to make sure that we preserve the little contact area that we made right here. So when we make the grooves, we have to be careful. Now most likely we will not be making any contacts with the secondary grooves. It's basically just filling in the empty areas. So we will just make the developmental grooves, refine them, try to bring them as close together as possible. And the central grooves. So now if we have to, we can take some red wax and kind of close up these spaces in the central fossa. Yep. Careful not to switch waxes by accident. Here I think I took away a little too much, so we're gonna have to achieve contact again. So we got contact right there, right in this spot right here. And again, we listen to the contact so that we hear the sharp touching of the stone. And we just separate separate all the lobes and make our developmental grooves. And now we can refine the triangular ridges a little bit. Double check the interior. Okay, here we still don't have contact, so we're gonna add a little bit. Just a little. See if we can pick it up. And I think we did, maybe even a little bit too much. So if the contact is a little too wide, we can take away a little bit. And just heat it up, make it a little rounder, and close it again. So now it's more acceptable. It's a little bit smaller. So now we can move on to the premolar. Oops. I'll have to recheck that occlusal contact there. So let's start again. This one might pick up a little bit of a contact, since it's right where the lingual cusps of the uppers go. You see? Kind of smushed that one right there. That's it. So that one we'll have to remove a bunch of wax from here and redo it. I'm gonna add a little bit. And that's a pretty heavy contact there, so I don't know, we might have to reduce this a little more. But we still want to hear that sound. So eventually we'll have to refine the marginal ridge also. This one has a little bit of a contact right there, right from this area right here, right here. So we're gonna have to take away a little bit from there, because it's a little bit too hard of a contact. So here we're gonna add a little bit of blue wax, fill in those areas. And the marginal ridge we're gonna go back and we're gonna get some green wax. That's why it's important that we try to make contact with the green wax also at the marginal ridge. Okay, there's contact right there. And gonna refine this one right here. I'll put blue wax. Let's put the green. Let's see. Okay, so we have contact right there. I'm gonna go with the blue again, right here. Let's close it. So we got contact there. Gonna put a little bit of blue here. Just a little bit. Don't go too crazy with it. And we close it. Alright, so this one we're not gonna get contact. Well, we may, I don't know. Let's see. I don't think we'll get contact there, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Then we're going to put a tiny bit here and a tiny bit there. Add a little more marginal ridge here. Close it. And we got contact there. Gonna divide the marginal ridges here. I'm gonna add a little bit more to the second premolar. Close it. Okay. Now I'm gonna refine the first molar here. So we got a contact right there. And build it a little bit more in the mesial. Alright, so let's look at the lingual. It doesn't look like we're gonna get contact there because there is a gap right here in this area, so we're not going to pick up contact in this spot right here. Let's try to get to look at it a little bit better. Right in that spot, we're not going to pick up any contact because there's a space. So let's see here. Right. Let's add a little more wax in between this, and then we will divide it with the Hollenbeck carver. And let's add a little bit more here to make contact with the adjacent tooth. Just don't overheat the wax, we want it to stay put. So this is the distal marginal ridge. And let's see if we can pick up a contact there. Okay. So we picked it up just about in this spot here. Maybe it's a little bit too heavy even, so I'll just lighten it up, give it a nice occlusal embrasure to make it look like a tooth, and then we'll give it the distal groove there. At this point we gotta look at it to see if we have all the contacts. So we have this one, and this one, and we have that one. We have this one. And now we gotta make sure we have the cusp tips that go into the fossas. So let's double check this way. Okay. So we want to make sure we have nice cusp ridges here. That makes it look like teeth. So let's put this wax behind here and see if we need something light colored so we could see the outline. So as we can see here, we have kind of a nice outline to the cusps. That's what we're looking for. This particular model won't have very steep cusps, but nevertheless they should be kind of triangular. And we have to check to make sure that we have all the contacts. We should have a contact on the tips and on the distal cusp ridges. So at this point we can probably take, since we have all the contacts, we'll take the model off and we can refine the grooves and make everything nice and clean. At this point, just refine and kind of puddle in areas that are too open. Make sure that we have all of the marginal grooves or spillways. Here in this one we still have a little bit of space, so we're going to funnel these in a little bit. Just make sure you don't use too much heat. I know I'm repeating myself, but if we use a lot of heat, obviously we're going to melt everything in our project. We're going to have to start all over, and we do not want to do that. What we want to stay away from are our occlusal contacts and our buccal contacts. We don't want to lose that because it's going to be a lot of work putting them back in. And make everything look like teeth, so we have to make sure that we contour the teeth, get those embrasures as natural as we can get them, so that the teeth look separate. We have to refine the grooves also, the developmental grooves, and if we can get secondary grooves in here, we can cut them in now. So remember, the developmental grooves come all the way through the cusps, right in between the cusps, and the secondary grooves don't go all the way up to the cusp tips. They just kind of stop about halfway, and then they start widening out. We use a little bit of heat, it can smooth everything out and make it look nice. Over here we can improve on the embrasure a little bit. These are the buccal embrasures right here. You see the V shapes, and these here are the occlusal embrasures right here in between the teeth, right there. Remember again, I know I'm keep repeating myself, but the embrasures are what make the teeth look separate. So let's try to make those as neat as possible. We have to look at all of the length of the cusps to make sure that we have the proper height. Now the cusp height here is going to be dictated by the maxillary, so we can't do anything about those cusps. They have to be in contact. The linguals, however, we can adjust a little bit. We kind of go with the adjacent teeth here. So as we can see, these cusps are a little bit low compared to the adjacent tooth. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase it in length a little, and we're going to use the green wax, since that's what we used for the cusp ridges. So we're going to increase the cusp height a little bit to match it up to the adjacent tooth. Let's try to not heat it up overly so that we don't ruin anything. Match everything, and we can also smooth some of the cusps on the premolars, and they look a little bit raggedy. So smooth those out a little. Remember, lower cusps are shorter on the lingual, on the mandibular, than they are on the buccal. Sometimes. And at this point we're just matching up the adjacent ones. These are pretty much the same cusp height, so we're going to kind of match them up. And that's about what we want to accomplish. On the other side it's going to be the same thing, except the other side will be cusp to fossa occlusion. This was cusp to marginal ridge, since the buccal cusps are touching the maxillary on the marginal ridges, mesial marginal ridges. So this is going to be half of project 1. The other half we'll have to start on it, preferably today if we can, so we can finish these and they can be graded. Thank you, and let's try it.